remarkable. So it is a transitional year, but we get that, and hopefully this virus is a thing of the past. But let me again welcome everybody, and we're going to get things started now. Welcome to the Rochester Rotary Club April 6th meeting here at Oak Hill, and I call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation from past President Peter Kelderhouse, Rochester Rotarian since 1980.
Good afternoon. Give freely to the world the gifts of love and compassion. Do not concern yourself with how much you receive in return. Just know in your heart it will be returned. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we ask for your blessings as we gather this day in Rotary Fellowship. Today we welcome Tamara Denysenko, former president of the Ukrainian Federal Credit Union, as our guest speaker. We are reminded of the turmoil and problems facing our leaders each day. It is our prayer that they seek advice and in so doing make sound and intelligent decisions. We pray for the families in Ukraine who have to leave their homes, seeking shelter from Russia's war on their country. Grant each of us that the true spirit of service above self enter our hearts and that every act be guided by our Rotary's four-way test. Heavenly Father, we continue to pray for the brave men and women serving our country. We are thankful to the families who have released their loved ones to answer that call. Be with those absent from us today. If they are ill, place your healing hands upon them. If they are traveling, keep them safe in your care. We now ask for your blessings on the food we partake. May it nourish our bodies and everything we do and say. Be to your honor and glory. To this we say amen.
Amen. Thank you, Peter. Please be seated. And I do want to thank the new members who put on a terrific lunch last week. That was really great. Thanks to everybody who's be there. I'm looking right at Maria as a terrific new Lydia, terrific new members, because you guys are the leadership of this club moving forward. And with proper new leadership, we can go another 111 years, which is just great. So it's fun to mix it up a little bip with the Sergeant at Arms. Melanie couldn't be here today, but I'm happy to say that Carrie Falzone's going to pinch in. And she's been a Rochester Rotarian since 2016. Yes.
Thank you, President Scott. So today I have some announcements. The Eastern Cities Dinner, we will be holding the annual Eastern Cities Dinner on Tuesday, April 19th at the Floriano Riverside Convention Center. Tickets are $75 and will be limited to 250 people. Don't miss out on this wonderful opportunity for Rotary Fellowship and a chance to meet the current international president, Shakara Mehta. I also wanted to tell everybody about an upcoming B2B tour, the Commissary Downtown Kitchen Incubator. This is our second try at this, and we hope you all can come out for it. It's the Rochester Rotary B2B Committee invites you to join us at the Commissary, the Downtown Kitchen Incubator on May 5th from 4:30 to 6:30. Rochester's own Downtown Kitchen Incubator offers everything inspired entrepreneurs need to start and grow a successful food business. The happy hour event will include a tour of the facility, including the chefs showing off their skills in the performance kitchen with tastings. A cash bar will be available as well as drink tickets at the door. Your first drink is on us. There is a $25 cost to this event, and you can sign up on the Rochester Rotary website. So I hope to see everybody there. It should be a good time. And then I would like to announce the April birthdays today. Some of them that are not on here that I know of. Maria, you just had your birthday.
Thank you for coming to my birthday.
I thank you for inviting me yet again. April 2nd. And then April 3rd is Meredith Lamb. April 6th is Richard Diassis. April 8th is my birthday, another Aries, Carrie Falzone. April 9th, Megan Elkowitz. April 10th, Jane Van Zyl, another Aries. And April 11th, Joe Rixner. Thank you, President Scott.
Great, thanks, Carrie. How about a big hand for Carrie? First time being sergeant. And as always, our news of the day is with our very own Don Alhart, Associate News Director, 13 WHAM TV, past District Governor, past Club President, and Rochester Rotarian since 1976. Don.
Thank you, President Doug. I'm going to kind of focus on Rotary today. There's some other, I think we've all heard enough COVID news and all the concerns about another outbreak, but I think here in Monroe County, the daily numbers I'm seeing seem to be going down in the cases. And I think a lot of people are doing home testing, and that may be boosting some of the results. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll get things back. With that in mind, I'm going to put one more plug for Eastern City's dinner. This is a great tradition for Rochester Rotary. We have most every year had the international president here, Shaker Mehta, will be joining us on April 19th. Right now, and we limited the audience to 250. Right now, we've just passed 100 reservations. We need, as Rochester Rotary, quite frankly, to keep the image of this dinner alive. Presidents and incoming presidents talk to each other, and they say, don't miss this dinner. It's a fantastic gathering. It's a large turnout. I know we're facing COVID challenges. So I urge you, if you haven't signed up, to reconsider that. If you cannot make it, do one of a couple things for me. Call someone in another Rotary club or a fellow Rotarian in this club. Make one call and just ask someone if they're going to go and urge them to attend. If you're active on social media, there are plenty of opportunities for us to retweet and put on Facebook and share the information about this. So if you are on social media, if not, pencil a little note, send it to a friend. Anything we can do to build this back up. April 19th is the dinner, April 12th is our deadline to let the convention center know that the number of people that are coming. So please do that. The other thing, I think this is great. I want to call your attention to the flyer here, celebrating 100 years of sunshine. Take this with you. Take a moment to study it when you get back to the office or home or wherever you are. We have a great committee that has put together a number of outstanding events. Our goal at the end of this year is to make Sunshine Camp an image in everybody's mind in this community, separate from any other camp that may exist here. People, by the end of this year, we want them to know what the Rotary Sunshine Camp is all about, what it's been about for the last century, and all of these events, including Nancy Lopez coming back here on July 24th, I think will call attention to that. So again, please take note of these flyers and share them. All right, let's take a look at Wall Street. The Dow is off 106 points, 34,813. NASDAQ down 280, not a good day today. S&P off 36. Kodak down 4 cents. Xerox off 11 cents. Tootsie Roll struggling today, down 48 cents a share. Weather forecast. Just when we think it's getting a little better, we're going to go on that roller coaster again. But 61 today. Golf courses, I'm not sure about Oak Hill. It looks like a lot of work being done, but I went by CCR on the way here, and there are people out golfing, so golf courses are opening up. 61 today, cloudy skies tomorrow, 60. Rain on Thursday with a high of 52. Friday, we look for some showers at 51. If you're looking forward to the weekend, showers on Saturday, we drop back down to 46. Sunday, we stay at 46 with some afternoon sun. And next Tuesday, when we meet again, partly cloudy skies, warming up again, 65 degrees. Finally, I want to share a couple of items. One, I don't know if you ever listened to the No Nonsense Roundtable with Don Gentle. It's on 1180 WHAM every Saturday morning. He has a variety of guests. I'm going to encourage him, by the way, Tracy, if you're out there, I think you should be a guest on his show to talk about the camp. So I'm pretty sure we can convince him to do that. Every time I appear at that show, and I've only been on a couple of times, he always says, I want to do something. And I think I've shared before checks that he's presented. Most recently, he only wanted to use an excerpt from one of our conversations because he wanted to use it on Facebook or Instagram somewhere. I'm not even sure. He said, if you agree to do it, I'll make a donation to your favorite charities. So I said, all right, thank you. So he sent me this week a check for $500 for the Rochester Rotary Sunshine Camp for our 100th anniversary. You gotta like this guy because while he was at it, he said here, enclosure 2 checks, one for you and one for Joe LaMonaco on WHAM. Joe did me a favor. I'd like to do something nice in his name. So Joe doesn't even know about this, but he does an additional $300. So $800 I'm going to present to you, Scott, for our Rochester Rotary Charitable Trust, and thank you for that. Finally, somebody cleared the internet today, and it talks about middle age. I will just share these. Middle age. What is middle age? It's when you wander around all day muttering things like, what was I going to say? Why did I come in here? Did I already take my pill? How did I get this bruise? Why am I sore? And the one for Peter Kellerhouse here, where did I leave my phone?
Don, thanks so much. So before we get to the program, I did want to just reinforce what he was saying about the Eastern Cities Dinner. So you guys have got Val and I down. We're definitely going to go. And I want to encourage as many new members as possible, because it's President Shaker's vision to get more people in the Rotary and each one bring one thing. So personally, I'd love a picture of as many new Rotarians with him at this event as possible. I think that would be a ton of fun. But I also want to do another mini presentation. So the camp, as we know, has had a weird couple of years. Last year was sort of the resemblance. We had a little bit of normalcy. The year before that, just plain odd going down there in the summer and not seeing oodles of kids having fun. So I'm happy to say that we rebounded quite well. To give us a quick overview of what the summer is going to look like is our award-winning 25th anniversary executive director, Tracy Dreisbach. Holiday.
I like that. Hands the money right over. See, that's really good. Well, yeah, thank you for the opportunity to share with you. We are really excited that Sunshine Camp is at full capacity this summer. We are really looking forward to having all of our campers back. We will be starting the summer off. We really run Memorial Day to Labor Day is our prime summer camping months, and the rest of the time we're used as a resource for the community to do retreats from other nonprofits, churches, schools, to use the camp as a retreat center. So we are having groups out starting in May. We are under construction with our Wegman Lodge. We're nearing the completion there, so that's exciting. So things are starting to come together. But we'll be starting off the summer with our Reach for the Stars program, which is working with the Rochester City School District and bringing out 5th grade students to experience a day at camp, to be able to do some team building, to be able to experience boating, fishing, other things, climbing wall, tree house, things that they maybe have never had the opportunity to experience before. We'll have hundreds of kids come through that program. Typically, it's usually 400 to 500 kids will be through that program in a couple of weeks. And then we roll right into our summer camping program. And you know, groups keep reaching out to us, which is wonderful. The more they hear about Sunshine Camp and the accessibility of the Sunshine Camp, I actually just had CP Rochester reach out to me yesterday and trying to find a way that we can host some of their programs out at the camp this summer. So stay tuned, that'll hopefully be happening as well. But our big week will start off with American Diabetes. They'll run 2 sessions. Then we'll run into Sunshine Camp. We'll run our 2-week sessions in July, followed by Camp Hackamore will run 2 sessions, and then we'll run into some of the other programs. New to us this, Tim, if Tim was here, I could ask him, but Gilda's Club has a new name, and I'm sorry, I don't know it off the top of my head because I don't have it in front of me, but they just, I think it's a Cancer Coalition of something. Anyways, but they're going to be bringing out a group of kids to participate at camp this year, and Heritage Christian Services will be bringing their youth and adults back, and hopefully then we'll be wrapping up the summer with CP Rochester. So we're really excited about all the folks that are going to be out at camp, and we're looking forward to having a full house. We are looking for counselors, so if anybody knows of anybody who is looking to experience as a counselor, they do have to be 18 years of age or older, but we are looking for people, and it's a wonderful opportunity to, if you are heading to college or you're in college or you're a teacher who is just looking for, you can work as few as 2 weeks, you can work up to the entire the Memorial Day to Labor Day. So there's opportunities for that. But please, if you do know somebody, just have them go on our Sunshine Camp website and they can go right ahead and apply. Our summer camp, we have wait lists on our Sunshine Camp sessions right now. We're waitlisting people right now because we do need some more counselors. So you know somebody, please share and spread the word. And we look forward to having everybody out to camp. And we're going to have you guys out to camp a couple of times this summer on the sheet to celebrate and be with the campers. And really, our July 14th will be our 100-year, it'll be our Camp Carnival Day. It'll be on a Thursday this year, and it's going to be a really big celebration. So we're looking forward to inviting back our campers, our counselors, our alumni, and certainly our Rotarians to be out there to celebrate with us. So thank you.
Tracy, thanks so much. It's so nice to see the camp coming back to life. It's just wonderful. So let's get on to our speaker of the day. And Rich, do you mind if I use you as an example real quick? Would you mind just standing up and show people your tie and your shirt? Blue and yellow. That is the thought. That is the man who was thinking this morning. Unlike Rich, I did not think about that this morning, but I did think about it on the way in. So a friend of mine from work, who actually knows our speaker, Denysenko, was kind enough to give me borrow. He made sure that I bring it back this afternoon, this small Ukrainian flag. I think we've all seen the news. We know what an issue this is, and I think the common thought is, how can this be happening in 2020? Really? So I'm delighted to have you here. Personally, I think that this is incredibly important because this is an affront to democracy, and we need to do everything we can to support Ukraine as a sovereign nation. I also want to thank Maria because she's a great new member. She's going to introduce our valued speaker, who happens to be her aunt. So please welcome Maria Fisher, a Rochester Rotarian since 2021.
Thank you, Scott. As you said, I'm Maria Fisher, and I'm a newish member of Rotary. And in my day job, I work for Senator Tamara, but today I'm just here as a Ukrainian-American patriot. And I have this photo up for keeping our promise, and I have it up again today. That's my Ukrainian family, and my uncle told me that was at the DP camp.
DP camp.
Yeah, so that was at the displaced persons camp, my family.
1948-49, picture taken.
Thank you. And so in 1932, my grandparents, Ivan and Maria, survived the Holodomor, a genocide perpetrated by Stalinist Russia that killed an estimated 4 million Ukrainians. And it was a genocide that was mostly hidden by the world. I'm guessing that most people here didn't even know it happened. Even the New York Times hid the genocide. It wasn't until 2018 that the United States finally declared the Holodomor genocide. Just a few years later after the genocide, my grandparents and their children were then captured and forced into a Nazi slave labor camp. One of my relatives told me that he remembered as a young child thinking to himself he didn't care if he lived or died because conditions were so horrendous. But their story didn't end there, because American soldiers freed their camp because the United States decided the lives of Ukrainians, Jews, Poles, and so many others were worth saving. And the world declared, never again. And my family was welcomed into this country along with millions of other displaced persons. My uncle Walter signed up for the military and served his country as soon as he was able to. He bought a house and attended RIT on the GI Bill, and I'm so glad my uncle is joining us today. And my uncle, so my uncle is pretty special, but the greatest thing he's ever done by far, and I think he'll agree, is marry my aunt, Tamara. Tamara was born in a displaced persons camp, and having lost her father, came to the U.S. with only her mother, knowing no English, having no money, but believing in America. She would take her 3 children with her to college classes at Brockport until she eventually earned her degree. She started as a bank teller at the Ukrainian Federal Credit Union and worked her way up to becoming the first female bank president of any Ukrainian credit union. She's also very actively involved in the community. I'm just going to name a few things she's done. Former officer of Ukrainian World Congress, a Rotary director, leader in the Ukrainian scouting organization Plast. Yes, we have our own Boy Scouts. Co-producer of Ukrainian Magazine, director of the U.S. Ukrainian Foundation, Rotary Poltava, Sister Cities Chair, president of Rochester Global Connections, and so much more. Yeah, she's amazing. And I was thinking as I was reading the news about Kyiv today and everything about how much people have been telling me how much they admire Ukrainian President Zelensky and how unusual he is. And here's the thing, he's not an unusual Ukrainian. He's an unusual politician, having worked in this field for a long time, but he's not an unusual Ukrainian. A couple of things about Ukrainians. First, we are people of deep faith. It's easier to stand in front of a tank if you know where you're going. And secondly, our love of freedom courses through our veins. We believe in democracy with every ounce of our being, and I think it's been obvious if you're watching the news. And as I end my introduction and welcome up Tamara, I'll say the rallying cry you've heard if you've been to any Ukrainian event recently. Slava Ukraina, glory to Ukraine. Heroyam Slava, glory to our heroes. Please help me welcome one of my heroes, my aunt.
Well, Maria, after that presentation, I have nothing much to say. That's why I have some pictures. I mean, I wasn't sure what to talk about, but just wanted to incorporate my life in upstate New York and the Ukrainians in upstate New York. We're not a new commodity or a new community. We've been here for many, many years. So today I'm going to talk about Ukrainians in upstate New York, mostly Buffalo and Rochester. I could do the whole New York State, but that's where I grew up, Buffalo and Rochester. And this picture here is a picture of ladies. We had a Women's Day celebration in the Irondequoit Public Library. I do exhibits at the library, and we have a little Ukrainian corner there. We made a donation when the library was built in 2015, and there's an exhibit gallery, and I do portions of it, about half of it, focused on the Ukrainian contributions to our Irondequoit and Greater Rochester community. And then the first Sunday in March, we had a celebration of women of Susan B. Anthony in collaboration with Susan B. Anthony and our Ukrainian community. We have a joint exhibit, but here I only showed the ladies who sang. So if we ever have another community event, the Malve Morning Glory Women's Vocal Ensemble is a wonderful performing group. And if you ever need any performances, please let me know. I can invite them. They sang at the last concert we had at RPO, and they were part of that group singing the national anthems. So, and please visit Irondequoit Public Library and see the current exhibit focused on Susan B. Anthony and Lesya Ukrainka, the woman poet who was a feminist in Ukraine during very difficult times at the same era that Susan B. Anthony was. This is also, who are Ukrainians? Where are Ukrainians in the United States? Currently, we have a partnership with the University of Rochester. Our former, and to a certain degree, my mentor, Mirko Pilashenko, and I think Peter knows him, Pilashenko, he was a collector. His house was full of books, archives, papers of the Ukrainian American community for over many, many years. And also books. When parents died, the kids, instead of throwing out the books, they dropped it off to Mirko's house. His house was filled with books. So he established a partnership with the University of Rochester at the library, and we have a Ukrainian American community collection, the Ukrainian Rochester collection. And I've been helping out there too, so when it gets all done, hopefully that could be another project for Rochester Rotary. See what's going on at the University of Rochester. Because there are many donors and collectors at that library. So who are and where are the Ukrainians? Oh, sorry. There are 4 waves of Ukrainians to the United States. The first and second was pre-World War II. I am part of the 3rd wave of Ukrainian immigration, and the 4th wave was when the Soviet Union fell apart, started in '89 and onwards. So as you can see, the majority, this is just a brief census. There's over 1.5 million Ukrainians, Americans over the years in the United States, but the majority, as you can see, is in the New York, New Jersey area, because that's where the first and second immigration came, mostly to work in the coal mines and the steel mills in those areas. They were asked to come here to do, because Ukrainians are very hard workers. The 4th wave of immigrants, you can see on top, Sacramento, Seattle, and Portland. That's the 4th wave of immigrants. And California was very open, and they invited Ukrainians to come. It was mostly religious-based, Pentecostal, born-again Christians were going to those 3 states. So that's where the growth of the current immigration is. And the East Coast, as you can see, Detroit is going down because economy and people are moving, so it's a little different. But New York State and our upstate New York community still has one of the largest Ukrainian American communities that has been here over more than 100 years. And who is a Ukrainian? Somebody who immigrated, who considers them Ukrainian, their roots, I meet some people, they say, oh, my grandma made these Ukrainian vareniki or holopsi, Ukrainian food. I'm Ukrainian. Yes, if you eat those two products, then you're Ukrainian. So all of you can become Ukrainian. We'll invite you come to the festival and we'll make it. And then Ukrainian ancestry, born or speaks Ukrainian at home. We have, I made sure that my children learn Ukrainian. My mom was taken from her village. If you ever saw that movie, Planet of the Apes, and you see how people were rounded up, when she was telling me her experience, that's how I envisioned it. The 16, 17-year-olds were rounded up when the Germans came in to take them to slave labor camps in Germany. That was the last time at 16, 17 she saw her village, her parents. And she said, and I promised her that I would always remember who she was, the language she spoke, and I made sure I taught my kids. So my kids didn't know any English until they went to kindergarten. And you know, the more languages you know, the better you are, right? Your mind works a little bit different. So I made sure they learned Ukrainian. They had to go to Ukrainian school. Saturdays, kids played sports, and our kids were tortured by going to Ukrainian school. But you know, it was a benefit to them. This is Buffalo. So in Buffalo, my teenage years were in Buffalo. In 1914, Ukrainian immigrants built that Ukrainian American Club. It became the center. Any Ukrainians came in, that's where they went to network, to socialize, to find out. And I looked at the companies that were, those were the companies that were bringing those Ukrainian workers to Buffalo. Pratt and Letchworth Steel, I think maybe that's where Letchworth Park came from. Pratt and Lambert's Paint and Pierce Ayers. Those were the key industries in the Black Rock region that brought in the new immigrants. That was the first and second wave. After World War II, it became a center for the third wave, like my immigration. And that's where I spent a lot of time socializing, dancing. Ukrainians love to dance. We had wonderful dances. And I danced with my husband there. And that picture there, I had my wedding reception there. And that's me sitting in the middle, and we have a tradition. My husband was a wonderful dancer, still is. So I sat, and the ladies paid to dance with my husband. That was one of their traditions. Recently, because of the war in Ukraine, it became, over the years, it really went down. So the new leadership, the new generation, opened it up more to the general community in Buffalo. And this I just found on the Cultural Center's website. One, Phil Gugliotti, has a business, and he did some hot sauce. Looks very Ukrainian, right? It wasn't. So the community has evolved, but those are my roots, and I always have a special feeling for Buffalo, the Black Rock region, because of that special day where I had my wedding reception. This is another club, the Dnipro. There's churches, but I just focused on the clubs. It was purchased by the third wave of immigrants because, you know, each generation has a little different approach to what they want to do, and the third wave was more focused on the liberty, eventually having Ukraine become an independent nation. I grew up in Buffalo, and they said, you're a DP, and that was not a very nice thing to say. That was a derogatory. You are DPs, displaced persons. I never knew what it meant until later on, why they called me a DP. Kids, you know, can say funny things. And a third generation wave of Ukrainians bought the Cultural Center on Genesee Street. If anybody knows Buffalo, it is now coming up. But during my time, when I was a teenager, we had dances, concerts, everything there. But right now, it has become a central point for bringing together the community to help Ukraine. And as you can see, even Rotary was there. They just had recently, the Buffalo Rotary gave a donation. But the history of that building is also, I looked it up, it was built in 1914 by the German community. But during World War II, it was confiscated by the federal government. And it was going to be sold off or demolished but the Ukrainian community in 1955 purchased it from the federal government. And it's now one of the historic landmarks also in Buffalo. That's the interior of that cultural center. Those paintings, it is painted by artists, the third generation, the third wave post-World War II immigrants who came here. They were artists, doctors, lawyers in Ukraine. But because of language issues, because it was difficult to become, use your talents, what they had in Ukraine, many of them worked as laborers, even though they were professional individuals. But this building, that room, is painted by a wonderful artist. I knew his family, and the trident is in the middle, the Ukrainian emblem. And that trident is especially in my heart. Eva Kuyava Kuzenko, that's my mom. She embroidered, Ukrainians embroider in a DP camp. So that, to me, that's part of my heritage, part of my culture, and what kept the women and many of the young ladies in the DP camps active. They had embroidery classes, socializing, singing, dancing, teaching children their culture so they would never forget what they had lost, not voluntarily, but by force. And here is a group, I was involved with the Open World Program. It's a congressionally sponsored international visitors program that brings initially from Russia it was, but then they expanded to all of the post-Soviet countries, and Ukraine became a large part of that exchange program. And in 2017, I had a delegation of Ukrainian veterans who survived the 2014 war. So what's going on now is not new. It is a continuation. If the United States maybe had been more stronger in the 2014 attempt by the Russia when they took over Crimea and part of Ukraine, we may not have this war now. So those are veterans, and the very tall man, he became, after his visit to Rochester, the assistant administrator for the newly established Veterans Department in Ukraine. He lost both arms and an eye in that war of 2014. And the others were psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers working with veterans. Now in Rochester, my life was spent in Rochester. Over 50 years, I've been happily married, as I said, to that gentleman over there. If it wasn't for Volodya in Ukrainian, Walter, I would not. Volodymyr, sorry.
But the name changed to Walter.
Yeah. He told me when he was in the army, he said, Volodymyr Denysenko. The sergeant looks at him and says, alphabet. So he changed it to Walter. So the Ukrainian community in Rochester is also very old, over some 100 years. In the 1880s, as you can see, 1870s and 1880s, and the Bible, because they didn't have a Ukrainian language Bible here, from Ukraine, they sent a Bible to St. Joseph's Church. Many of you probably know of St. Joseph's. And this book was written by one of the original first and second wave residents about the history of the Ukrainian community from the 1800s. And I have that book, and it's also in public library. And it lists many, many important people who contributed, who started with nothing, with zero, and became major leaders in the community. I think maybe you heard of the Mendik family, the Pluta family. Their ancestors are in those books. They were the ones who came here and started, and only in America, I say, can you achieve what you want. And I tell everybody when I do presentations, my roots are in Ukraine, born in Germany, but made in America. If it wasn't for America, I wouldn't be able to do what I do today. This is part of my life. If you, on Joseph Avenue, if anybody ever goes, those are the founders of the credit union that I spent my professional life. And I always thank God I had the great blessing to be able to combine my professional abilities, my professional desires with my cultural heritage, to be a leader, of the Ukrainian, it was used to be called Rochester Ukrainian Federal Credit Union. It was on the second floor of that building. It's now in Joseph Avenue. Those were the founders. Those were some attorney Andrushin. He passed away. He was very known in the community as well. They built that home, and as everybody's, all of us, we think we will live forever. I'm glad that this club is here and has people taking care of it. They thought that club would be there for centuries, for the next generation. The kids would live in the area, Avenue D, Hudson, Joseph area, and they built that club for their children, for their grandchildren. We had our credit union there. It got started in 1953. In the 50s and 60s, there were like over 20,000 credit unions nationwide. We're down to under 5,000 now. So things are changing. So I started my career on the second floor in that cultural center. It used to be called the Free Cossack Society. Ukrainians always want to be free. And then in the 80s, economically, socially, I said, I was already the CEO of that credit union, and I said, we need to move where our members are moving, because most of them are moving to Iran, the Kuwait. So we purchased that building. If anybody recognizes it, if anybody knows the 80s, the 70s and 80s, Mr. Atlas, the health spa on Ridge Road between Carter and Hudson Avenue. Boy, I must be really old. Everybody's young. We bought that health spa, Crystal Ford, from Crystal Ford. It was the health spa. Crystal Ford bought it, and we bought it from Crystal Ford for $1.5 million in '86. That's a lot of money at that time. Yeah. And we put in over almost 800,000. So over 30 years, I amortized it. So it's finally paid off. So our credit union, and I spent most of my life in that credit union, and now it was one branch. I had 3,000 members, like 39 million in assets. Now we have 13 branches, coast to coast, and over almost 23,000 members. And you don't have to be Ukrainian to join. So please come down. Peter knows us. He sold me some furniture for our credit union. We celebrated our 45th anniversary, and maybe you recognize some of the individuals there as well. I knew something. But I speak so loud. Louise Slaughter, a great friend of the Ukrainian community. She was one of the founders of the Ukrainian caucus in Washington. And I made sure Congressman Morelli joined it. He was not, but I made sure he did. Dave Shantz was the town supervisor, and also Assini, Congressman, Senator Assini. Okay, he was also a good friend. He always came to our events. So, and that year we had our sister city, the mayor of Poltava, that we are working with, come here as a delegation to help to build relationships between the U.S. and Ukraine. It really sunk in, and they wanted to be like Ukraine, democratic, free, rule of law. Unfortunately, they're paying the price for it now. Ukrainians are now defending the principles that we promoted, that we said everybody should have. Hopefully, the United States will continue to support them. These are the churches. The oldest church, St. Joseph's, it used to be on Hudson Avenue at the turn of the century, now in Carter and the Ridge Road. St. Mary's, that's my church. This is the fourth and second wave of immigrants. That's the third wave of immigrants. We used to be in Clinton. And that's the fourth wave, the Pentecostal church. So you can see St. Joseph's, St. Mary's, and Epiphany, which is on Carter Street and Avenue D across from Pulaski Park. And most of the new immigrants are from the evangelical, Pentecostal, and Baptist communities. Not too many Orthodox came, because the Orthodox community is from Eastern Ukraine. It was very difficult to leave. The Holodomor, which Maria spoke about, where millions, almost 7 million Ukrainians were starved to death. My husband's family survived, but many did not. So most of the Orthodox Christians are from that region. It was very difficult to go from one end of Ukraine and to immigrate to the United States or other countries. Most of the immigrants from St. Joseph's are from Western Ukraine. Lviv, if you hear about Lviv and that region, that's the roots. And the Pentecostal community, that's the church in Spencerport. They built it. So they're very much a large community and growing, and the credit union, always called it my fourth child. 3 kids, that was my fourth child. I knew I had to make something out of it. And the credit union is where everybody comes, everybody's equal, everybody knows they can come there and be treated fairly. So, and everybody can become a member of our credit union, because Irondequoit, we have the Sister City Partnership. Through that, you can be a member of our credit union and any other organization. So I hope somebody from Rochester Rotary will join us, and I can say at least I brought in one new member. You're looking for members? I'm looking, and we get the best service. I apologize for the promotion. This is a volunteer project I did. Richard Svereda, he had his parents were from the first immigration, a lot of old archives. So then in the 80s, thankfully my husband tolerated my activities. I ran the TV program once a month on cable, Rochester Cable, once a month. Everybody was glued to TV on the last Sunday of the month to watch the program. So from 1983 through almost 1990, on a volunteer basis, we did the TV program. We had many, many interesting visitors from Ukraine, dissidents who spent time in prison for being Ukrainian. I don't know why such an issue with being Ukrainian, but they spent years for speaking Ukrainian, for writing Ukrainian, for wanting Ukraine to be a country, a nation. And when it was Glasnost and Gorbachev movement, they were let out of prison and they came to Rochester, and I did interviews with them. And some of those programs, fortunately, my husband took them off the TV, and we had the cassettes, and I made them over and on YouTube now. So if anybody ever wants to see from the Cultural Center, you can see the activities from the 80s. And a lot of the community is there. The culture, Mirko Peleshenko once said, we had one church at the turn of the century in the 1900s, and like 20 different clubs. Now we're down to one club and many, many churches. Again, it's difficult. So this is the club, the Ukrainian Cultural Center, which is on, it used to be on Clifford Avenue. Now it's in Webster on Jackson Road. And it now has become this community center for the current events, and especially Rak Maidan, which is working to help it was established in 2014 because of the war, and now they're working, collecting funds, helping the new tragedy in Ukraine. But that's why the reason why the Cultural Center was established, again, if Ukraine was independent, if Ukraine was like America, Canada, and Germany, you wouldn't see these cultural centers, you wouldn't see these churches. But because Ukraine was also always subjugated, was always trying to be destroyed, that's why it's in our blood to preserve that which our parents, which our ancestors were always fighting for. That's the Cultural Center over there on Jackson Road. It used to be a club for veterans of foreign affairs wars. VFW post. Again, time changes, there were no more members, so they sold it and the Cultural Center bought it. And again, these are the groups through Rochester Global Connections that I had international groups coming over. And as a Ukrainian, I said, well, we'll take a Ukrainian group. And just another sideline, when I went to the American Embassy, U.S. Embassy in Kyiv, and said, we're looking at doing these programs, and I want them to come to Rochester. And they said, well, we want these people to meet real Americans. Right. He was not happy he said that, because I really laid it on him. Who is a real American? Define for me a real American. You know, I said I may be even more of a real American because I really appreciate and understand and value what we have here than maybe somebody who has been here who takes it for granted. I never took it for granted. I said, okay, come on, I understand. So this was one group of veterans, and these were scouts. Maria mentioned, this was the latest group in 2018 or 19, I forgot. We had the last group here of scouts that we brought over to build a partnership between the American Scouts and Ukrainian Scouts. Again, going back, 1993, when we started our Fred Lappel, I'm not sure if anybody remembers him. He was a great friend of mine and the community, and he said, Tamara, I want to do, when Ukraine became independent, a sister city with Ukraine. So in 1991, he reached out, I formed a committee. In 1992, I went to Ukraine, looked for a partnership, and I took Poltava, which is called the soul of Ukraine. And we established an official partnership, and in 1993, we planted a friendship tree, the blue spruce, and we put a plaque, the Holodomor. It was exactly 60 years in 1993 anniversary of the Holodomor. So by that tree, we have the friendship plaque, the remembrance plaque, and the tree. Unfortunately, after 25 years, the tree died. They had to cut it down. But in the meantime, because the Ukrainian community in Irondequoit was growing and had so many churches, community centers, the Centennial Park is on the grounds of Irondequoit Town Hall. I think the only Ukrainian community that has an official representation on town property, and with that plaque. So every year on August 24th, they celebrate Ukrainian Independence Day. Used to be celebrated in January. I'm glad now it's in August, a little bit warmer. Again, very proud of our 2017 delegation. I took him to Buffalo, again, to show them. So Batavia, the Center of Hope, how and what we do, how we help our veterans. In Buffalo, by a submarine, then in the city of Rochester, veterans, and that's the cultural, and that's Ukrainian Saturday School. If you know, on St. Paul Boulevard, where St. Mary's Ukrainian Orthodox Church is, next to it was a synagogue, but the population changed. The synagogue was no longer viable. They sold it, and the Slavic Bible Baptist congregation bought it. 90% of them are Ukrainians. So in that former Jewish synagogue next to St. Mary's Church, there is a school where the Ukrainian language and culture is taught every Saturday. And whenever I have visitors, delegations, I always take them to the Saturday school, and that's a group with the veterans at that school. And finally, I used to be a member of Rotary, Irondequoit Rotary, for about 5 years. But with running the credit union, expanding branches coast to coast from Boston to California was a little challenging, and to do everything. You want to do everything, but there's so much to do, so little time. But in 2003, we had an international dinner dance, and we had representatives from Washington, D.C. come to participate. So that's the top picture. With officials and Ukrainian community, and Tom Kosenki, I think that's on top, yeah, from the Rotary. And that picture is very special to me because that's my, during that event, we had Irish dancer, the African American community, and ballroom dancers from Arthur Murray, my son and daughter. So, but he got his talent from his dad. And that's the Rotary Club in Poltava, because we wanted, that was our project, to collect funds and provide scholarship for orphans. I visited several orphanages, children's centers, and that was the project. So we helped save the life of one young lady, a heart replacement, an implant in her heart, because she couldn't She was like 10 years old and she had an issue, so then she had to have it replaced. So that's the Rotary Club in Poltava. Then I was there in 2018 and they planted a friendship tree. So we have a Irondequoit Poltava friendship tree in their park, which the Poltava Rotary takes care of, that dendro part, they say. They take care of the plants and everything. And that last picture was our visit with the Rotary in 2010. My husband's there, and we had a credit union conference, which I organized, an international credit union conference in Ukraine, in Poltava. And this is the latest message on the Poltava Rotary Club site. Ukraine is united today. We are strong, and we are unbeatable. And over the centuries, that has been true. And finally, that was the past, the present, and what does the future hold? Just wanted, Maria showed one old picture, and I'll show you two old pictures. This is the 40s, the 50s. The 40s, that's my husband's generation, before he came to the US, and the DP camps. There's now many, many DP camps, displaced persons camps in various countries. This was in Germany. That one is my DP camp. And we were traveling at that time. I won't ask you to find me in that picture, but we were traveling as a group from Regensburg, that's where I last lived, to Munich. All the Ukrainian communities from all over Germany were getting together in support of Ukraine. We always felt that Ukraine was, is, and always will be. But what does the future hold? These are the new displaced children. This was 40s and 50s. This is 2020. It is a sad history. And what will they become? Will they be brought? Are they able to come to the United States? There's this issue, 100,000 for temporary individuals. But I think the United States will not make a mistake if they bring in more Ukrainians to the United States. Ukrainians are all over the world. In South America, there's whole communities. In Australia, even in Africa, in Canada, a large community, in the US. And just again, and there's in New York State, where we had the largest community, but now it's all over. Everybody's moving. South and North Carolina and Florida are now the points of destination where they like to live, the fourth wave. And that top picture are my relatives currently in Ukraine. They are now, 3 of them, the mother, the little girl, and Albina. They're now the new DPs in Germany. History repeats itself. So I want to thank you for listening, for inviting me, and I wish you all the best. And just as you probably know, the CEO of Rotary, Helko, is Ukrainian. So it can't go wrong. Thank you.
Tamara, thank you so much. I know we're a little bit long, but does anybody have any questions for her? Yes, Bob.
I have a little question. If you could help me understand a little bit about the culture and institutions in Ukraine that made you so special and different. It doesn't have to be very much, but just some answer.
In Ukraine or here?
Ukraine.
The culture, again, there's this discussion, who are Ukrainians? Regionally, makes a little, right now, everybody's Ukrainian, even though they may speak different languages. Again, that was the issue. I was on a Dawson show, and somebody asked me, because some of them speak Russian, does it make a difference? Right now, no. But I just had a communication with Dnipro, a TAPS organization from Washington, D.C. I work with them to help the veterans. Their representatives all spoke Russian, and I wrote to them. At this time, I suggest maybe have at least one person speak Ukrainian, because language does matter, and I think that was the issue. That's what Putin said. I'm coming here to save the Russian-speaking population. Well, not really. He's killing the Russian-speaking population. So the language is an issue. Culturally, it's the same. They celebrate the same holidays. Religion, majority is Orthodox. There's Catholic, and the growing community of Pentecostal Baptist is also there. But culturally, Christmas, Easter, a large Jewish community also. Minorities, the Tatars, Ukraine is a little microcosm maybe of the United States. A lot of different people are there. But right now, because of the war, everybody counts themselves Ukrainian. I must say there are a few people who are saying, it doesn't matter, let's all be good. Well, not really. I don't think you can't be good to somebody who comes and shoots you in the head. Okay. So, but I think Ukraine will survive, and and now everybody knows Ukraine, right? Whether it's good or bad, everybody knows. But they are getting together.
Thank you. While you were talking, I looked up Poltava to see this east of Kyiv. Do you
Yes.
know the situation there? Has that been touched directly with the fight?
Well, recently, because we had the sister cities, my first groups through the Open World program were from Poltava, and then I said I want to diversify. But they have not been under direct bombing yet, but close to it, they had, there was something going on. And the young lady, the group that I work with, they are, for me, like the center point where we distribute the humanitarian aid to the other parts of eastern Ukraine. Let's say the village where my husband was born, and near Kharkiv, if you heard Kharkiv, it was bombed totally. So now into his village, like 60 families moved in, 11 people in one house, in one room. So I was trying to get some equipment, some bedding, food to those places, because from the cities they're going. But Poltava, they have not reached Poltava yet.
In the interest of time, let me suggest that we close the meeting, then you guys can talk if you're able to stay for a few more minutes.
Sure, I apologize. I'd like to talk
Oh,
more.
no, that's good. I hate to close it down, though. How about one more hand first? Yeah, I'm sorry to shut that down, but in the interest of time, because I know everybody's got to get back. But Tamara, let me say thank you so much for being our speaker today. Maria, thank you for your heartfelt introduction. I think that was terrific. And one of my takeaways is I had no idea the Ukrainian people are as tough as they are, and I'm sure that they're going to survive as a country. I think it's that important. But Tamara, as you may know, we do have a couple of traditions here at Rochester Rotary. We do have a major affiliation with the Roberto Clemente School number 8. We ask all of our speakers to sign a book, and Kellyanne always does a great job. So this is My Country, Ukraine, that she picked out today. We'll ask you to sign that. And then also we've got a little thing of our very own syrup that we make at our camp. And we'd like you to come down and help us celebrate 100 years of helping special needs kids.
Okay, thank you.
I was just looking it up. Ukraine Rotary is represented 52 clubs in different cities and almost 1,000 members. 9 clubs in Kyiv, but 52 Rotary clubs in Ukraine. Wow. I wondered about that while I was sitting here looking it up.
That's awesome.
The possibility of that.
Okay, thanks so much. I do want to remind everybody that next week is Paulie Guglielmo's interview with Paul DeCarolis right here, so that should be a lot of fun. Paul's a little shy, but I know he's a little bit excited about this. I talked to him last week, so please come out for that. And then a reminder that Eastern Cities is on the 19th, and let's get a great showing for that. And then in closing, the thought of the day is always correspondent with the speaker. And so today I picked out a short quote, and that is, "All war is a symptom of man's failure as a thinking animal." And that comes to us from John Steinbeck. So this meeting of the Rochester Rotary Club is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Can you promise me a fighting word?